On 24th May 1970, on the Russia's Kola Peninsula, which is near the Norwegian border, a project was started which is not only for searching for oil or the natural gas, it was for pure scientific purposes. In the 1960s, the Cold War wasn't only fought in the space, while the US raced to the moon and the Soviet Union launched a different kind of mission. Instead of looking up, they decided to go down. The goal was simple in theory but almost impossible in practice. Drill deeper into Earth's crust than anyone had before. So the portal to the center of Earth sits among the ruins of the abandoned project site in the Murmansk, Russia, which is not far from the Norway, but sure, it's welded shut, but it still sounds a horror film to me. It is still the deepest hole we ever have dug, right? So no wonder the locals residing there calls it the well to the hell. Before the idea of the super deep hole starts haunting you, keep this in mind, the hole is only 9 inches in diameter, which is about just 23 centimeters, so there's no way you could fall into it, right? So, how deep is the deepest hole, right? So, the deepest hole of this is that it reaches approximately 7.5 miles below the Earth's surface, which is around 12,262 meters, a depth that took us around 20 years to reach. The hole was intended to go as deep as possible, which researchers expected to be around 9 miles, and that's 14,500 meters. But the scientists and engineers were forced to give up when they hit the unexpectedly high temperatures. At around 7.5 miles below the surface, the 2.7 billion year old rocks, which were present beneath the floor, there are temperatures of around 180 degrees Celsius or a scorching 356 degrees Fahrenheit. This was almost twice as hot as the scientists predicted. So because of such very high temperatures which deformed the drill bits and the pipes, the rocks also themselves had become more malleable at such high temperatures. The Russian scientist in Kola described the rocks at those depths as behaving more like a plastic than a rock. So also, when they hit around 7 kilometers under the ground, they were expecting a basalt rock, but this boundary has just appeared on the seismic data. But when the drill reached at that depth, the basalt wasn't there. Instead, they found more granite and more granite. The famous boundary they expected wasn't actually a change from granite to basalt. It was just the change in the physical properties of the same rock. And one discovery which forced geologists to rethink about the crust. Also around 6 kilometers underground, scientists found the microscopic plankton fossils nearly, and these tiny marine organisms had somehow been preserved inside ancient rock for millions of years. Even more surprising, they also discovered the water deep inside fractured granite. Geologists had assumed that the rocks at these depths would actually be dry, but instead there was water trapped within the crust under enormous pressure. And the drilling mud also released some unexpected amounts of hydrogen gas, another finding researchers had not been predicting. So with every kilometer we go downward, there was more and more unexpected things. So after all of this, you would think that why do we dig such deep holes into the crust? There are very few reasons we humans dig deep into the earth. Extracting resources like fossil fuels and metals for starters, and an American effort called the Project Mohole attempted to drill deep into the floor of the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Mexico in 1958. The project goal was to reach the boundary where the Earth's crust meets the next layer called the mantle. Congress discontinued funding in 1966 when the drillers had reached only 183 meters. So there has been many such things. And the years after the drilling stopped at the Kola, a bizarre story spread across the internet. It claims that the scientists had lowered a microphone into the borehole and recorded the screams of the people trapped in hell. The story spread around the world pretty fast, but it wasn't true, it was a myth. The recording was a fabricated audio clip and the entire story had been repeatedly debunked. The real discovery made at the Kola Super Deep borehole were already extraordinary and there was no need for such stupid myths.